Okay, so you need your ebony pencil, and then your two colored pencils you can set to the side. And we're going to do these out of order because they make more sense that way. But we're going to start here at the top. So how many of you have heard of the term value scale? You've made one? Okay. All right, so what that means is we're going to make our value go from the darkest it can get to the lightest it can get. That's a value scale. And when I ask you to make a value scale, what I'm asking you to do is you just use different pressure when you're drawing with your pencil to create the value. So if I press really hard, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be darker. If I press really lightly, what's going to happen? Light. Okay. Now I am right-handed, so this is how I do it. It doesn't matter. You can turn your paper, whatever. But I like to start with the darkest on the left because it's easier for me, and then I don't drag my hand through all of that pencil. Okay. Plus, if you start with the lightest thing and you make it too dark, it's a lot harder to fix than if it's the darkest thing and you need to go darker. If it needs to be darker, what do I need to do? I just need to color in more. But if it has to be lighter, then I have to go in with an eraser, and it's just a mess. So I'm going to start over here. And the reason why there's these boxes is that each box is going to be a different value. So this box will be the darkest. This will be a little lighter, a little lighter, a little. Does that make sense as we go? Yes. Yes, you are using the pencil that says ebony, okay? And you're going to just color in one direction, and the harder you press on this pencil, the darker it will be. Okay, so then the next box, I'm going to try to make a little bit lighter, so I'm using a little bit less pressure. And then a little less pressure. I have skills. And if it's not dark enough, I can go back like I am now, and I can fix it, okay? It's a lot easier to make things darker than to go the other way. Practice. You could also hold it this way. I don't like doing that, but I hold it like it's a 3-finger pencil grip. And I kind of have it tilted so that there you get more of the side of the pencil than just the point. It's at an angle. The reason why we use ebony pencils is because they have a very soft lead, which means that it transfers easier and smoother. No, you got to give them back. Okay, but when you're all done, you look at it and you can see dark, and it gets lighter and lighter, 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 lighter. That very last box I did nothing to. I just left it white. A value scale goes from black or dark to white. So anytime you're shading, like, it's easier to do it if your pencil, like, you could, like, however you write, that's fine. But when you're shading, you want more of the pencil to touch the surface of the paper. That's why I hold mine at an angle the way that I do. And the further back you hold the pencil, the easier it is to get it on an angle, but the less control you have. The tighter you grip your pencil, the more control you have, but it's harder to get the angle. All right, so that is a value scale. So if I'm ever like, hey, I want you to make a value scale, that's what I'm talking about. You just create the value using the pressure of your pencil. There's some other techniques, though, that we're going to practice, and we're going to make our example similar to a value scale. So there's less boxes, but it's the same concept where one side will be darker, and then it will get lighter and lighter. And we're going to skip stippling because it's the one that like I love it, but I hate it at the same time. So we're going to skip down here to hatching. This is like one of the simplest, easiest, most commonly used pencil techniques. And all it is drawing in one direction. So if I say you need to hatch, you're going to be making lines in one direction. And the closer your lines are together, the darker they look. The further apart they are, the lighter they look. So if I'm going to start over here and I'm going to do it the same way, the left side's going to be the darkest side for me. If it's not for you, that's fine. Just either way, one side's going to be dark, the other side's going to get lighter. So when I make my lines, if I make them super close together, it almost looks like I'm just coloring, but I'm making lines. And the closer together they are, the darker they look. And then in the next one, if I make them a little bit further apart, that box is going to look a little bit lighter. I'm going to zoom in so you can see better. I'm going to attempt to zoom in. Where are my tools? That's not what I want. There they are. We're on, yeah, you can go any direction, but you have to go in the same direction. So whatever you pick, you have to commit to. All right, so you can see a little better now. The closer they are together, the darker they look. And you can go back over them and add more lines and use pressure and to make them darker. But the closer they are together, the darker they look. And the more space that's between them, the lighter they appear. Okay, so this is hatching. What do you think then cross-hatching means? Yes, they're going to crisscross, almost like making X's. So when I do this technique, I'm going to hatch the whole box in one direction. Then I will go back and hatch the opposite direction. So same concept, the closer your lines are together, the more lines you have, the darker they will be. And then I'm going to go back the other direction. And you can keep layering this, going one way and then going the other way. So when your lines are a little bit further apart, even though you're still cross-hatching, that box is going to look lighter. And then even further apart here. And then I'm going to go like the furthest apart. We're going to skip down to this very bottom one here. Scribbling. Good, because everybody can be good at this. You do have to practice. Okay, so, excuse you. This is a good technique for things that you need to look like they have texture. So it's the same concept as before. You'll hear me say it over and over again. The closer it is together, the more lines you make, the darker it will look. And I'm just making random scribble lines. And the more I make, the darker it looks. I'm scribbling. All right, so when you're done scribbling, we're going to be on the right-hand side here. We're going back up to the top, right under our value scale. This one is called contour hatching. So hatching, what's that mean? Drawing lines in one direction, like the band. Okay? But contour is another word. That means the outlines. So like if you were to draw Logan's face, contour hatching would be lines going in one direction, but they're following the outline of his face. So to do this one, I just make a random like swirly line in the middle, and then I'm gonna hatch. So my lines are going in one direction, bless you. And the closer they are together, the darker they will be. I drew this swirl here in the middle, and now I'm drawing lines following that swirl, filling the space. The more lines I draw, the closer they are together, the darker it looks. And if I were to do it again, so I'm going to go to the next square, Jacob. So if you watch, you'll see I'm going to draw the swirl. Then this time, I'm going to make my lines a little bit further apart, so it's going to look lighter. I'm just outlining it over and over. Yes.
It's easy. Look at mine. Mine is a masterpiece.
If you think it's easy, you're doing it wrong, probably.
It's actually easy.
All right, so if you look on the left, my lines are really close together, but they're following the contour. That's a word you're going to hear a lot this week. Then they get further apart, and then they get further apart, then they get further apart. So my value has changed, but I was hatching, so lines going in one direction. That direction is the outline that I drew. Okay, so then when you're done with that, we're skipping down. We're still on the right side. We're going to this box here. And you can cross out the definition because it's wrong. Woven hatching. We're going to make lines that kind of remind me of like a basket weave. How many of you have seen a basket that's woven? Okay. So we're going to use lines like hatching, but they're going to be in different directions, and they're going to be close together and changing and turning so that it looks like it's woven together. So like I just start in the middle, and I do sets of 3 lines because that just works in my brain, but it doesn't actually matter. So I'll start with a set of 3 lines, and then I'm going to make another one going a different direction. And then I'm going to go a different direction and a different direction. And I'm going to keep doing it until I fill up the space. Okay, and it's just like any other hatching. The more lines you have, the closer together they are, the darker it looks. So then when we move on to the next one, if we make them further apart, the box will end up looking lighter when you're all done. Well, it's your first time. All right, we're on the left side now, so we're gonna actually do the bottom, and then we're gonna move up to the very last one because it's the one that drives me crazy. But it's a little fun, but then you guys will get ridiculous. Happens every time. All right, so this is called tick hatching. So how many of you have like made little tick marks? Like they're just little dots. Well, they're not really dots. They're just little marks. Okay. So the more of them you make, the darker it will look. Just little lines. Doesn't any direction, it doesn't matter. I'm just making little lines, and the more of them I make, the more they overlap, the darker this area will look. So this would be a good one like for hair or grass, maybe fur. Because it looks like it has texture. So then if I make less of them, it will be a little bit lighter. All right, so that's tick hatching. So it's just little tick marks, and the more you make, the closer together they are, the darker it will be. This last one is called stippling. Stippling is normally a technique you would use with pen or Sharpie or ink, but you can do it with pencil. It's just a little bit more work. So stippling is just dots. So like these are tick marks, these are just dots. And the more dots you have, the darker it will look. Okay, and like I'm going to show you here. So this is a stippled artwork.
So it has done everything to me.
That's because you're pressing too hard. So again, the further apart you make your dots, the less dots you have, the lighter it will look. Whenever you're done stippling, you can put away your ebony. We're going to move on to the next paper. And the very first thing is a value scale. So you already know how to do that. So you can pick a color and you can make a value scale. I said to pick two, but just pick one color for your value scale and go ahead and start working on it. So you guys are going to have to share this little piece of texture. So I'm going to show you two techniques, and then you can do them both. Like one person can be doing the texture, and then while you're waiting, you can work on the other one. Okay. So texturizing is when you take a surface that has texture and you put it under the paper and then you color over top of it. I feel like probably everyone has done this at some point in elementary school art class, even if you don't remember it. So the box is at the bottom, it says texturizing. So when you put your paper over top of that and you color, oh no, I gotta switch colors. It will pick up the texture of whatever you are coloring. So if you watch mine, you can see that texture showing up. The other one is up here at the top. It's called layering. So with colored pencils, you can make colors just like you do with paint by mixing them. And with colored pencil, to mix them, you layer them. So you're going to start with the lighter color, and you'll make a layer of that color. And then you will color over top of it and make a layer with the other color. And as you go back and forth and add layers, they will start to mix together and they will show up as the new color. This is a lot easier with higher quality colored pencils because they have better leads that mixes. So this might be a little difficult with ours. But that's how you get new colors with colored pencils. Like say you need green and you don't have one, you would layer what colors?
Green and red.
To get green? Guys, what makes green?
Black and blue.
Somebody who's being serious. Yellow and blue. Red and blue makes purple. So for layering, you can practice with your colored pencils mixing different colors together. And then you're going to do the texturizing. All right, there's one more I'll have to go over, but the rest of them you can do on your own because I already taught you these. Hatching is drawing in one direction. Cross hatching is when they cross. Stippling is when you make dots. You're just seeing what these techniques do with colored pencils versus the... You want to do all of them, so you could like try to make different colors with your other colored pencils. Yeah, you can use different colors. So like you can see what yellow and blue does and what green, or not green, what blue and yellow does and what red and yellow does. With the texturizing, the harder you press, the more your pencil will pick up that texture. When you're pressing lighter, you can't see the texture as good.